To Studio 2, and as you've just heard, what's happening right now is all about delving into the world of health tech, healthcare, the changes that we've naturally been through, but more importantly, kind of navigating the way forward and where we're moving towards and where we're going to end up. So again, health tech, two areas which are on the lips of pretty much everyone on the planet in terms of what things mean to them, and we're going to explore right now some of those ideas moving forward with a great talk which is coming up right now, and then following that, an intriguing panel discussion as well, looking at the real key drivers behind health tech innovations. But right now, I'd like you to welcome to the stage a gentleman who's going to be sharing the ideas about the role of different players in the digital health ecosystem. Please welcome to the stage, partner at Roland Berger from Germany, Dr. Ulrich Klepasch.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak on this fantastic conference. Great to be here.
Fantastic.
Let me start just...
Great. Just the first thing, in terms of the title of what you're about to share, so the role of the different players in the digital health ecosystem. Really, we need to define, and I'm sure you're going to do that right now, defining the actual players. So I'm going to leave that up to you now. Take it away. And at the end, again, those of you that are listening to this, that are engaged with this right here as we do this, I'm in Maribor right now. Where are you, Dr. Ulrich? Where are you right now? Berlin?
In Berlin. Yeah.
Right, so Berlin and Maribor, but wherever you are in the world, it would be great if you'd like to engage with us. Just go to the chat, send your questions, and if we have time, we'll kind of pop those in at the end. Okay, so
we try that. Yeah.
Dr. Ulrich, over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks again. Just a very brief introduction. My name is Ulrich. I'm based in Berlin. I've been active in the digital space, and in particular in the digital healthcare space for the last 13 years. I'm a partner with the management consulting company Roland Berger, and I advise client on digital transformation to setting up new business model. In total, we have about 120 consultants focusing on digital, and we really have projects from Germany, France, to the Middle East, all the way to China. And this is particularly important and interesting here because we really can pick up the vibe from different developments from different markets. And I think this is also very interesting in the healthcare space as different markets are developing at different paces. So my presentation today really will be twofold. First of all, I would like you to present with the findings of our study that we did in 2020 on the future of health. And this is an annual study that we do where we ask a lot of professionals, in total more than 500 professionals from different industries, different continents, and ask them about the trajectory that they would expect in the digital healthcare space, and also from for the different verticals, so from hospitals over doctors to insurances. And the second part of this presentation will be more going into the applications and asking what that actually means, the different developments that we have seen in our study. So starting just with a few results from the study, I think we all know platforms, and we use platforms every day, and sometimes we might not even be aware of it. Platforms really have disrupted industries, and we all know these examples from Uber in the taxi industry, over Amazon in shopping, to the big social media platforms, and also, especially now in the pandemic, seeing the food delivery services really bringing together different restaurants and offering over a platform approach services to the consumer. And also, I think what can be said is that in many respects, they have set the bar higher and also improved the service for consumers. And it also has been the consumer which has actively driven the development by their demand that platforms are on the rise. And if you look at the characteristics of platforms, what are actually platforms? first of all, we can see they're huge. They can be quite large. And I mean, this can be witnessed by the market capitalization of the big platforms, if you look at Amazon, but also others, because they just have the possibility to offer a huge portfolio of services at the same point. And as they have been set up in the last couple of years, they often are more end-to-end digital in how they work. And having worked for a couple of them in projects, still one of the challenges is, of course, to give the consumer the trust and the transparency that they can rely on this platform. So the overall notion of having a brand in this platform game is very important, and reflecting on healthcare, of course, even more so here, because at the point where we start to deal with clinical data and with health data, people are very sensitive about how they want to be how they want to be dealt with and how data is stored. And it's also in this slide. I mean, often they're using large pools of data. They use data analytics, something that has not been done by other industries before. The taxi industry, for instance, has been very, very analog. And they're totally disrupted by digital solutions where consumers have more transparency and see where the taxi is, and better projection about the price. So in all different respects. And this has clearly, and you also have followed this discussion, has led to market domination in certain parts. And looking especially at this aspect, market domination, what does that mean for healthcare? Would we also expect that there is one to rule them all? Is there one big platform coming in the healthcare system? And for understanding that, I think we first need to look at what are the applications of platforms in healthcare. And here you see that there are really different parts where healthcare could play a role. So starting when you look at the patient's journey from appointments to actually treatments over a telemedicine app, to e-prescriptions where people can pick up their prescription and their medicine, or they even get it delivered. Or have their data stored in electronic health record. This all can be enriched with different devices, medical devices, and new treatments. So what we see is that there's actually a huge number of applications for platforms in the healthcare space. And still, for this study, it gave us the question, so what do we expect? Do we expect that there will be a Amazon or a Google or another coming and do the one big health platform, or will it maybe be a pharma company who's doing that? And I think one important, before we get into the results, one important point to look at is that if we look at the dynamic of the healthcare platform, is that it's complex. It's very complex because we have a large number of players. It's not just the patient and the doctor, but it's also the insurance company that's reimbursing the cost. It's maybe a hospital. It could be later in the patient journey. It could be a rehab center, and there might be a provider of the technical solution. There might be different doctors that you actually go to, and this leads to multiple interactions, different interactions. Sometimes they are overlapping, and the whole process can be quite long. So especially if you have a complex issue, this might be something that follows you over months. So overall, platforms in healthcare, they have to deal with complicated and complex processes. And this, of course, also has an impact on how players might be in the position to offer one big solution. And maybe just as a last remark, because we've seen this in project with the electronic patient record for health insurance companies, this is just a very huge project. And it just takes organizations such as health insurance companies really years to implement and before they can actually offer something to the consumer. So looking at the results, this was really one of the biggest questions that we had in the beginning. So do we see more specialized platform, or will there be one big one? And that was pretty clear from the experts, that they said they really would expect that there will be different types of platform on the market. They would expect that really along the patient journey, along the value chain in the healthcare system, there will be specific platforms for specific services, and then they will be integrated. So as you've seen before, for instance, if you want to make appointments, there are specialized provider for this whole appointment management, and it's not something that will be all done in one player. Looking at the actors, going at the coexistence, that really would mean also that in certain areas, if you go, for instance, for telemedicine, it is not expected that there only will be one platform, but usually that there are multiple platforms. And we've seen that in different parts. We've also seen that for the electronic patient record, that there are actually different providers, be it IBM or be it a company from Switzerland, and they're all offering this as a part as alternatives. So it will be part of the job to actually make them interchangeable also when among each other. So if one patient wants to move to a different health insurance company, that he actually can take the data with himself. So we don't expect this effect of winner takes it all, like in search engines, that one player really takes 90% of the business. And the way we did the study was really along starting with qualitative interviews with more than 50 experts. And after that, we did a quantitative interview, and we also finished this with an event and a roundtable. And it really was confirmed. The findings were really confirmed by the experts. So they said there is no winner takes it all scenario, and it's really the complexity that's the main reason for this. Other aspects that we've seen in our study, because we're not looking at the roles, but also further aspects, were, of course, the development in digital. And here, we've seen in a bit that this also has been accelerated by the pandemic, is that online and offline services really become more integrated. So we will not expect that everything will be digitalized, but we also see at clients that certain paradigms that have been there for a long time are shaken. For instance, that certain things have to be done at the tied agent of the health insurance company, and people want to go there for certain use case. No, it's not true anymore, because after the pandemic, patients are much more willing to do something online and also break with behavioral patterns that they had before. So we've seen this in the rise of the different telemedicine platforms, that they are much more faster accelerating now as compared to the time before COVID. And so looking specifically at healthcare and what is important for these platforms, it might be intuitive to say that, of course, the most important thing is that I have a health benefit, and that I actually that it actually works for my health. But interestingly, this is not the case. So even here, and I mean, we all know this probably from other parts of life, the aspect of having a smooth customer experience, having a good UX, UI design is one of the primary factors which really helps people to adopt electronic health platforms and makes them want to use it. The other one is credibility and trust, and there is not even a German bias in here, because we really did the survey worldwide. But as I said before, it is important to them, especially if you deal with sensitive data, if you deal with health data, they want to be sure that you keep the data really in a locked up in a way that no one can access it. And then lastly, and these were the three most important things, apart from other things such as range of services, or that you already had a existing relationship, it really is the perceived health benefit. So it is something that needs to work and actually show the benefit. And maybe this is because you were referring before to the question, so what are the different roles and what are the different players? And we broke them down in our survey, and we had to look at them and also their role in the future. And what has been shown is that there is not a one-dimensional answer to who will take the big stakes in the future, because there is a differentiation between really prevention, so having services for healthy individuals, and treatment, so patients that have an actual health problem right now. And what we see here is that really the trust and what people think who will play a bigger role is different for healthy individuals and for patients. So while the big tech players such as Amazon and Google, they might be very well suited to help healthy individuals with prevention programs, with sports programs, and so on, and of course helping also the overall health of the population. It is more the healthcare providers for actual health problems for people that are sick. And I think this is quite interesting, that because it leads to the notion that as a player, you have to find your role, and you have to find your role for the kind of services that you pick up. And I think for some players, this might also be a disappointing result. For instance, for the pharma industry, they were not seen as a player that really steers the future of this industry in terms of setting up a platform that integrates different services for different players. So quite interesting results, I think. Also, the matter of disruption was one aspect that we were getting at. Here you see that while pharma players might not be the ones that benefit largely from it, it also, at the same time, it does not mean that they are disrupted in a large part, because they are, to a large extent, have their core business and are very strong and protected in their core business, the same as medtech players. So it is not expected that they will suffer the most from this. While healthcare providers, and we know this from physicians already, there can be quite disrupted from offering services in a different way, which also can have an impact on remuneration and organizing your working day. Lastly, as a result from the study that we did, it really was COVID that showed us that it has accelerated this whole development of platforms of digital in healthcare. And as compared to the study that we have done in 2019, there was really a rise in the healthcare spending that is expected to be there for digital products and services by 2021. We're currently in the process to do the study for 2021. And this time we will not focus on platforms, but on new medications. But this will also be a measure that we will be tracking and that we will be comparing to the values that we had in the years before. All right, so having a look at the results that we have seen, this really raises the question, what does that mean for the different players and how should they go about this? And I'm trying to concentrate really on the main results because I think we only got 10 minutes left, and I really want to give you some hints of what this might pose as a challenge. So first of all, I think what we can see here is that platforms are a highly relevant topic in the healthcare sector today. It is a potential and it is a threat at the same time. So it is highly relevant to think this through. And if you don't, someone else might actually do it. And as we can see this in the market today, there are new players also coming into your into your industry. And we have seen this in different project examples. For instance, we have helped a semi-governmental organization in the Middle East who wanted to set up a healthcare platform. And here, Philips, and this is public knowledge here, Philips is already part of the platform structure. So they decided to go aggressively into this market, and they want to play a role with their products in this digital ecosystem. So what they're doing is sort of preempting really parts of the market and going then in there directly, and that makes it harder for other players to go in there. Another example is that if you look at other geographies, China, for instance, has seen enormous rise of platforms that are closely intertwined also with other services, from communications to payment. And of course, once this structure is set up, they strongly impact the future of the Chinese healthcare system. So we see a lot of activity on the market from existing competitors over incumbents, from other industries to new players. And it really means be active there. And there are many ways to involve and participate in the benefits of platforms, from building platforms around existing models and services to joining existing platforms of clients, or even partner up. And this is, as a consultant, also something I would say to our clients. I would not recommend right away be the new platform player in a way that build your own platform. Not everyone has to build up a platform. Sometimes there is already one there in a certain segment, and then it might be the clever way actually to join this platform and find a way how to leverage this and make a strategy to work on this platform. And building on the insights that we had from the study, we've seen that the market believes in the rise of multiple platforms. This, of course, also has an impact on how to deal with this. So for our clients, this really means that they have to ask themselves the questions: where can players build a platform, and how can they also bridge internal island solutions with this approach? And what are the neighboring platforms that they have to consider with, what they have to connect? Is there something in the patient journey if they only tackle part of it? What are the partnerships that they have to do? Drawing again from the experience from the healthcare insurance companies, this is a very interesting point. If you build your own electronic patient record, you might want to combine this with, for instance, a service for training your back, but that doesn't mean that you have to build your own app for back pain. So you want to have the right partnering approaches and partner with the specific platforms that are already on the market, and get the best of breed. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. Online and offline is closely interlinked. We also had this point. This is interesting, as only 40% of the respondents believed in the rise of purely digital platforms in healthcare. And I mean, I've been working with startups for more than 5 years, and a lot of these startups, they believe in a purely digital solution. And I think that's quite interesting because it might work at the beginning as a standalone solution, and work as a pure B2C model where people pay for their own services. But at the point where you want to get integrated also with a bigger player who maybe gives you access to their whole clients. If you work, for instance, with a health insurance company that has 5 million clients, it might be very interesting to partner with them. And especially at this point, you come to the point where your online services has to interlink and has to be integrated with the offline services. So this might be also something to think about for purely online players. Maybe as a last point, and this is really bringing together what this means in terms of as an incumbent, as a big pharma company, or as a big medtech or insurance company, or maybe even chain of hospitals. So what should I be doing? How can I tackle the market in a way? How can I start to work on this topic of platforms and different roles in the healthcare system? Well, I put down 5 points which might probably not hurt you. And first of all is really engage in trend scouting and look what the trends are out there, and also try to develop scenarios for yourself, how the market is moving and where you want to find your own role in the future. The second point would be tackle this with a strategy and decide whether to implement your own platform, or if you want to become part of a network, and how you want to do that and with which player. Lastly, next, it's also about defining your role, and also how your remuneration model should work. How do you want to make money of that? How can you, or maybe it is only an expense, because you need a partner and you need this service to enrich your current model with a service that you don't have. Fourthly, find the right customer access points and leverage your existing customer base. This is also interesting, because sometimes even in this platform-driven economy, your customer might change. Existing remuneration models might change. You might come to the point where not a certain source of remuneration pays you for services, but there might be another way. And so this is also something to look into. And lastly, make a conscious decision about what you want to make yourself, where you want to partner, and what you want to buy. And I think especially this partnering is super important, because you cannot and you don't have to do it all by yourself. And being a company that is in the position to actually partner and have a smooth interface for partnering is really an asset in the future. And this is something that ranges from having the right processes to onboard startups, to having the right budget to partner, and also do the right contracts. So often this is also about speed and finding the right partners. So last message, platforms will play a major role, but there is no winner takes it all. And we really believe that everything is still possible, but you have to act now, and now really pick your battles, and also pick the platform that is the right for you, and decide how you want to engage there. So thanks for your attention. As I said, we've done 2 of these studies, one in 2019, one in last year in 2020 on platforms. This year we do another study on the future of healthcare with a focus on new medications. If you are interested in getting involved, please contact me over LinkedIn. I'm happy to have an exchange. Thank you.
Dr. Ulrich, intriguing insights that you've just shared there with us, and something that you mentioned to me that's kind of stuck in my mind is the kind of the relationship between online and offline. And you say that most young people nowadays feel that the only kind of solution is a digital solution. Isn't that intriguing? I'm just thinking, is that simply just got to do with the fact that millennials and younger people have just naturally, different from our age perhaps, Doctor, just kind of grown up more with everything, every solution is a kind of digital solution. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's true, but it's also, if you only concentrate on the digital part, there are certain things that you cannot deliver in a digital way. If you need to find a physician, there might be certain treatments that you can actually do over telemedicine. So I don't know, an initial consultation when you feel sick or something, but there are also certain things that you cannot do online. If you have to do a PET scan or something, or you need to draw a blood sample or something, that you cannot do it online, at least not yet. So so it's in the nature of digital health that certain things only can be done by the providers, by the doctors, and by the hospitals. And the second thing is really that, I mean, startups and digital healthcare startups, I think they have an interest also to partner with traditional enterprises, from pharma to insurance companies, simply because they have a very large customer base and they want to get at that customer base. And these guys are, to a large extent, in their analog and their non-digital processes. And I think if they want to integrate into their journey, they have to recognize that a patient journey is a mixture of online and offline. Yeah. But it's increasingly becoming more digital, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it almost seems like more and more people today are kind of even having more ownership about their decisions and how they move forward with their own health in how they're managing it. Yeah. You mentioned earlier on, again, connected to what you just mentioned there, over 5 years working with startups within the healthcare area. What would you say is kind of like their biggest issue right now? What's kind of like on their minds? What's the thing that they really are kind of, I wouldn't say struggling with, but they find it a challenge? What would you say?
I found the big challenge was actually, depending on the kind of startup, one was, of course, the regulatory side. So if you go into a solution that qualifies as a medical device, this all can take quite long. So going through the regulatory jungle. And maybe even equally important is getting into the remuneration systems, getting into the system that actually a health insurance company gets you into the machine that they can pay you. And I think this is something that a lot of startups struggle with, that they can provide their services as purely B2C, so that all the end consumers pay for it. But they're giving away potential, of course, because they're not reaching that large customer base. So getting into the remuneration system, that is a big thing. But I think it is... at least in Germany, we see that with the DiGAs, that this is something which is more made easier for health insurance companies to compensate them. Compensation mechanisms.
Dr. Ulrich, it has been, I have to say, it's been an intriguing pleasure listening to you over the last half an hour with certain ideas and insights that is just making me think even more and just being more aware of things that I certainly weren't aware of before. So thank you so much. I believe you're staying with us for our next session, which I'll introduce right now. So we have a panel discussion right now, the key drivers behind health tech innovations, and I believe we have a short video introduction.
It is time to rethink and to realign. Learn and get inspired. Prepare your questions and enjoy this insightful Podim DX panel.
So we continue with our health tech track, just finished listening to Dr. Ulrich Klepas, really sharing some really intriguing insights. What we're going to do now is jump into the area of key drivers behind health tech innovations. First of all, if I ask you what the key drivers are, I'm sure some of you will have some ideas, others may be slightly different, but what we're going to do now is jump into a healthy, productive discussion to look into these key drivers and really what's driving them and pushing them forward. I'm intrigued as much as you are really to get into this and really hear from our experts who clearly know what they're talking about, to really share with us what those key drivers are and really how to navigate through that and where it's really going. So first of all, I can see everybody's looking lovely on the panel there. I will quickly introduce everybody that we have here right now. So naturally, Dr. Ulrich Kleppers, we've just spoken to you right now. Everybody is quite aware of who you are. Fantastic. We also have investment associate from Unica Ventures from Austria, Lisa Palweber. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Principal from Speed Invest Health Tech team, again in Austria, Felix Faltin.
Hi, great to be here.
Wonderful. Right, and also before we begin, I've been following all your posts and your promotion of this discussion on LinkedIn, which is getting a lot of interest indeed. So I'm intrigued again to hear really what this discussion is going to produce for all of us. So maybe before we begin, it would be great. Apart from Dr. Ulrich Kleppers, maybe Lisa and Felix, just to give us all a little bit of a flavour of what you do and almost saying why you are on this panel. Just a little bit of a flavour of who you are and what you do. That would be fantastic. Maybe start with Felix.
Yeah, very, very happy to. So thanks, Peter, for having us. Lisa, great to see you again. Ulrich, great to meet, and thanks to everyone who's listening, and thanks also to Podim, obviously, for inviting us over, and me specifically. So Speed Invest is a venture capital fund, and it makes sense that I speak before Lisa because she operates the stage later than we do. So Speed Invest is a venture capital fund based across Europe. We invest in pre-seed and seed companies across a whole range of verticals, 200 investments to date, and we manage almost $500 million in commitments from our investors. And roughly 10 to 15% of that is digital health. So digital health investments, we go in very early. So we have 17 companies in 8 countries at this point, ranging from really very early pre-seed, pre-product, pretty much everything investments to the most mature companies in our portfolio are Series B. So we have a very broad view of the market. We do consumer, we do B2B, we do AI for life science, a whole range of different business models and strategies and technologies ultimately. And last year we've looked at 1,000 plus digital health leads with my team, which I have the honor of working with at Speed Invest. And so we have a pretty good overview of kind of what's happening on the fresh side of the market and what's happening at the kind of on a bottom-up level. And yeah, happy to talk about it in the session to come. But I think that's why I'm very excited to be here. It's I've worked in healthcare myself, both on the public and the private side in Europe and in Asia. So very passionate about the topic and particularly happy to discuss it with all of you here today.
Wonderful. And where, just remind us all, where are you right now? Where in Austria are you?
Right now, I'm actually in my hometown, Vienna, for a change, thanks to COVID. So that's where I'm from today. Not far from you, Peter.
Fantastic. Great to have you with us. Shuffling across to Lisa. Lisa, share with us, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and how you're connected to this topic today.
Sure. Hello again, and thanks for having me. I am Lisa. So after graduating, I started to work in asset management and banking, and that's where I actually got in contact with tech companies. But I didn't like to be so far from them, so I wanted to move closer to them. That's where I actually then joined Speed Invest, which was my first touch point with venture capital, where I was working in the fintech and in the insurtech team. And after a quick break, I joined Unica Ventures, which I'm now 1.5 years with, where I'm investing in digital health and insurtech. And Unica Ventures is the CVC of Unica Insurance Group, which is one of the largest insurance groups in Austria and also CE. They have about 15 million clients and 6 billion in revenues. So as a CVC, we are a single LP fund and we have 150 million euros under management. We invest in Series A plus companies, so slightly later than Speed Invest, and we focus on digital health, but also insurtech and fintech. We invest alongside European investors, from venture capitalists to CVCs to other institutions, and we're purely financial driven, so we don't have any strategic goals. Currently, we have slightly over 25 companies in our portfolio, and we have a few deals in the pipeline.
Always nice to hear that. A few deals in the pipeline. Fantastic. And where are you right now, Lisa?
I'm also based in Vienna right now.
Vienna.
Yeah.
Right, Ulrich, it would be a hat trick if you were in Vienna, but I don't think I think we mentioned earlier you're in Berlin, right? We can't hear you. Maybe unmute, perhaps, or I can't hear you.
Yeah, this is the most common thing you hear over video conferences. I think you are mute. So yeah, I'm based in Berlin.
Okay, right. So let's just jump straight in, and we, without being too specific, which we can do a little bit later on. But you know, what really are, would you say, from your perspectives, that you know the real key drivers pushing health tech innovation forward? What would you say to that answer? I'll open it up to you, and again, love to hear a kind of for you to explore this together in this you know, efficient discussion.
Who wants to start? Happy to.
Felix, you can.
Happy to start.
Okay.
Since kind of from on this panel, I guess I work closest to at least on the startup side's source of innovation and company formation. So I'm at the bottom of the food chain. So happy to start. I think, you know, there's three big drivers on a macro level that we're seeing. I think one is just really a change in behavior, and COVID has accelerated that, and it's on the consumer side, it's on the business side as well. And I think the impact COVID had, and a lot has been written about this, it was really just an accelerator of something that was perhaps already there. But we've definitely moved forward very quickly. And so that's one thing. I think consumers and businesses who are buying and making buying decisions and strategic decisions are just behaving differently around digital health. Lots to unpack, but I think that's one big thing. I think regulation is the second. That's a major shift in mindset. And this is, again, a very slow-moving change, and it's been going on for years, and it will go on for years. But I think Germany is a great example of what's possible if you really put something like digital health on the agenda, and just the vibe and the buzz it creates, even though, again, lots of work to still do. And the third thing is actually, I think that, and this really is something that we at Speed Invest credit COVID with, is, you know, health is definitely a sexy topic at this point, very much like fintech or mobility have been in the last 10 years. I mean, fintech still is, no worries about that. But if we're just looking at our deal flow today, and like I said, we see hundreds of deals, the caliber of founders and entrepreneurs who are starting health tech companies today wouldn't have done that 5 years ago. So health is attracting some of the best people. Some of the most senior startup founders or tech operators in Europe are, for their next venture, planning to do something in health for many reasons. And I think these three things together kind of create the perfect storm. And then the fourth thing that it mobilizes is also capital, right? And I think so in Europe, we're very much at the beginning of a development. But these three things are creating a lot of movement, and a lot of other things I think will follow from that. But happy to, so that's kind of at a very macro level. Happy to dive into any of those or complement.
Yeah, okay. As you were sharing that, Dr. Ulrich, I could see you nodding your head. Share with us your perspective.
I think Felix was pretty spot on about what he observed. I at least would have named two of them also. And one of them is, of course, the consumers, and also the sort of spillover effects that you have from consumers coming from other industries, that they expect certain things that they know from shopping online, for instance, that they say, why should I not have the same customer experience when I deal with my insurance company or something? So there's spillover effects, and there's a certain demand and pressure from the consumer side. And of course, this has been accelerated by the COVID crisis. The second thing, regulation, definitely also a point. We're live witnessing that in Germany through a lot of advances that have been made also by the government, for instance, with supporting apps and also the electronic patient record, but also regarding laws that affect hospitals. So in different parts, they try to drive digitalization. Two more factors that I would have named are probably also the point of technology. So certain technologies that you have today, technology becomes better and better, and certain things that would have not been possible 10 years ago. And that goes into, I told you that we do this study right now on innovative therapies and medications, and this is just something that we see also how digital and existing methodologies are combining, and the whole topic of treatment is starting earlier. So it's moving, a lot of this moving into prevention, and this is something that's also driving the market. And lastly, I would have said there's also the factor of competition. This is, of course, at least from an maybe less so from a startup view, but at least for the incumbents from health insurance companies and also pharma, of course, they're looking at what are my competitors doing, and they're setting up a fund. Maybe I also should set up a fund. Okay, they have an innovation lab. Maybe I should also do an innovation lab. Okay, they are launching their patient record 1st of January, or I want to be earlier. So there is some sort of competitive dynamic that is also driving this.
Okay, so essentially the same kind of three that Felix mentioned, and you're kind of adding on to that the advances of technology and how that is developing so fast, and like, as you say, doing or achieving things now that even 5 years ago we couldn't even do because of how things are changing so fast, and also the competition, sort of bringing everybody up and almost like pushing people forward even further and quicker because we want to get ahead of our competition, perhaps. Interesting. So, Lisa, would you add anything to that, or reshape anything that you've heard so far? I'd love to hear.
Well, I can just second what Felix and Ulrich said. I think we see a lot of this in telehealth due to COVID. So there are many new forms how care is delivered. We see the frequency and the scope of these telemedicine platform use increased a lot. We have investment in this space, Telemedico from Poland. They're continuously adding languages and specialties and new features to the platform simply because it's so much in demand. And I also believe post-pandemic, this will last, and this will play a crucial role in patient engagement and how care is delivered in the future.
Intriguing, interesting. So Felix, if we go back to what you said originally in terms of behaviors that have changed, behaviors that are still changing right now. It reminds me of a little bit of what we mentioned earlier on with Dr. Ulrich, where patients are kind of increasingly driving their own healthcare experience and taking even more responsibility and accountability for that, rather than maybe letting others do that. So love to sort of jump into this idea of how behaviors are actually changing, and your take on it. Actually, all of you, but you can start off, Felix.
Don't always want to start. So if Lisa or Ulrich, if you want
if Lisa wants to take over.
Yeah, sure. Happy to start.
Lisa, go for it.
So I think what we see is more customer engagement, customers demanding for transparency, for more personalization and more accessibility. So I think we will prioritize this customer experience and make it much better now with the digital approach that we have. And overall, I think with the technology, we can improve this customer experience and provide healthcare access to a much wider group of customers.
Can you just maybe give us a few examples of this, of what you've seen so far, perhaps?
Well, startups actually being able to provide this access to a much wider group of clients, or also being even more specialized, for example, in the femtech space, just targeting more niche segments that maybe haven't been so interesting for other companies so far, but that are in much need, that are just not so glamorous, like menopause, for example.
Okay. Felix?
Yeah, I think again, for me, the change. So I would sign off all of this. I think for me, the fundamental driving force on the consumer side is that just consumers are becoming more capable patients, so to speak. So just able to take more control of their own fate. Many things factor into this. I mean, just the erosion of authority generally also has an effect on the authority of medical players. I think Ulrich has already mentioned tech spillover. People want the experience of booking a doctor's appointment to be as fluid as booking a rental car at the very least, although that's perhaps not the best example. At the same time, you have a lot of choice and you have a lot of information, I think. So we're just seeing individuals be much more capable managers of their own health. And at the same time, there's a big paradigm shift completely aside from the digital world in health towards preventive and value-based care anyway. So this is something that's also been going on. And all of this, again, is a perfect storm. And I think the consumers are today perhaps making use of 2% of what they could be making use of, but they're in a position now to really create their own healthcare experience, which is a huge change if you compare it even to just my parents' generation, where basically the model in people's heads is, you have a health issue, you go to the doctor and you just do what they say. And you go to the doctor that you've always gone to. So it's a completely different environment. And I think new things will be important. I think it's going to be important to provide seamlessness through these care journeys. I think it's going to be important, really important for these new players, whether they're digital or offline or both, to build very strong trust in the same way that other players have to, etc. So I think it's many things going on. The bottom line is that consumers are no longer just doing as they're told, and I think we need to build systems around that in many ways.
Yeah, as you were talking there, it just reminded me, and you said the word trust again. Our parents' generations. Again, what they were told, they would do. Doctor knows best. What he says or she says, that's it. But now with so much information and so much, I suppose, so much kind of conflicting information from different sides, from different different opinions floating around everywhere. It's really sometimes difficult to really choose the right path, or the path that is right for you. So yeah, with the word trust, what's happened over the last year or so in terms of who we trust, okay, not just in healthcare, but just generally who we trust in terms of who's kind of helping us with our health. It's a big question mark, but it's an intriguing topic. Dr. Ulrich, what's your take on this?
Yeah, Peter, I think Lisa and Felix already had a number of very good points. There are three more aspects that probably I could add to this. I mean, one aspect is really this, as he said, trust. Are patients really more in control? I think the demand is there. Just taking the electronic patient record, there is the clear demand that patients want to be in control what piece of data goes to which other stakeholder. I don't want to show my doctor maybe my complete disease history, but only something that I feel comfortable with. I want to ensure that my insurance company doesn't know everything about me. And I want to be in the driver's seat to decide if they know if I really went on that hike or not. So I think with increasing data, there's also an increasing demand of the consumer side to be in control of this. And this is also something that we've seen in this study. The second factor, I think, is there are also some let's say some supporting factors which make it easier for people to deal with health data, because there are certain, for instance, gamification elements that just make it more attractive to also deal with health topics. And as the whole issue of health is moving a little bit forward in the value chain and prevention becomes more in focus, it is just more fun to deal with your Apple Watch and get a certain KPI and track your points and get rewards for it than going to your doctor and you sit on a machine and then he measures what your blood flow is. Yeah, so I think it also has become more attractive for end consumers to deal with their health. And lastly, and this is, I think, something we should not forget, is that there is also a natural interest of corporates to go into self-services. On the one hand, to provide better services, because if they do something in self-service, they can do it 24/7. Yeah, they don't need a call center that's there all the time. But there's also an economic rationale. So if I can steer a customer, a patient towards a voice robot or a self-service, it will simply cost me less. So there's also a driving force in the market by the providers that say, okay, we have a rising number of touch points and a rising number of interactions. And the only way to really deal with this is also to install self-services, because this is something that the insurance, I think, Lisa, you can confirm this. This is something that the holy grail for insurance companies, they want to have more interaction with their consumers. They want to have this close touch because they know this is a positive impact on their NPS. So they want to be there in touch, but you cannot just triple the guys in your call center and your customer support. So you need to go into automation. You need to go into self-services. So bottom line, there's an economic factor for incumbents to do with this.
Felix, again, I can see you nodding your head on the right of my screen. Tell me your take on what Dr. Ulrich has just shared.
Yeah, I was just I was in broad agreement. I mean, we see this every day. I mean, we've been talking a lot about the consumer side of things right now, and the patient. I mean, there's a whole that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. Some really interesting developments are happening far away from consumers. Just a lot to talk about there as well. I think that's a really good point. I think the one of the big drivers also that perhaps I forgot to mention at the beginning is actually corporates and just large players need to come to terms with this whole new world of empowered consumers in healthcare and somehow offering something to them. So just as an example, we have one company that is still in stealth mode, but they work in the field of cognitive decline monitoring and risk scoring. And they're getting a lot of interest from pharma companies who are just completely disintermediated from their end users at the end of the day and have no idea how to reach their consumers other than through doctors or key opinion leaders or clinics, etc. And these are interesting new constellations, right? It's also Ulrich mentioned this in his presentation earlier. Platforms are key. Pharma is this huge old-fashioned industry that has an enormous apparatus of people and soldiers in the field to somehow sell their product to the end users. And I think that's an industry that is going to be massively disrupted by the consumerization of healthcare. And there will be a lot of self-service. There will be a lot of kind of giving consumers direct access to a platform, direct access to expertise, etc. The kind of investments that Lisa and Unica Ventures are doing in telehealth are examples of that as well. I think the change is happening on all these levels. So yeah, totally agree, and very much looking forward to it. I mean, to be honest, healthcare is a pretty gruesome experience if you need something nowadays.
So as you're talking, again, those of you that are joined with us from wherever you are in the world, here we are together, almost a trio from Vienna. But no, Lisa Felix in Vienna, Dr. Ulrich is in Berlin. Here we are naturally in the studio in Maribor. But wherever you are, again, if you want to join this conversation, come on in. I don't mean with your video, because that wouldn't work. But come on in terms of if you have a question or a comment or something that you'd like to put forward to any of our experts here. I'm sure hopefully we'll have time and I can ask those questions to our panelists right now. So we kind of just we touched upon it just then, but really, if I was to ask you, what are the real opportunities for tech companies, small or even large? What would be on your mind, Lisa? What would kind of conjure up in your mind when I say that?
Well, I think these tech companies, they sit on huge amount of data. And for example, with the Apple Watch, we have so many data points that we can collect. And I think this is making the case for connected, customized health and to connect these data points to make an insight out of this and to really customize and monitor and also prevent healthcare, to be a more preventative approach for healthcare. And by empowering the consumer actually to share his data whenever he wants and with whom he wants. So I think this is one of the main opportunities for tech companies.
Yeah, so data, so the amount of data that they've actually or have access to, or even have and not really using it to an advantage of some sort could work. Would you agree, Dr. Ulrich?
I mean, the take that I have from tech companies, from projects that I've done or conversations that I've done, they have one big problem, and they also have, I think, one guiding thought in this. The one big problem is that they have a very profitable business model. So when they're looking at the health value chain, they want the profit pockets. So I mean, this is very guiding for their thoughts. I think that they are looking for business that is very profitable, and they don't find this in every part of the health value chain. And this is also one of the reasons why some big tech players maybe are not making the move that was expected from the market. So I remember from projects that I did 10 years ago, where the big insurance companies were asking, so when is Google selling car insurance? Well, Google didn't, because the margin is not big enough. Yeah, so they're very much caught up sometimes in their business model, where they say, okay, if it's not giving me 25% margin, it's not attractive, so I wouldn't go into it. And the other point is, of course, scalability. I mean, they often come from business models that are really built on replicating certain processes again and again. So there's a lot of stuff that they will not engage in, because it's not scalable well enough. And so I know I was more saying something about the limiting factors right now, but this is something at least I took from the discussions that I had. And so looking for the profit pockets and also engaging in something that is scalable. And I mean, we see big tech players, of course, from China to the US, that are engaging in certain parts of the healthcare market, from insurance to also running platforms. Yeah, so there is of course there are attractive parts in the market. Yeah,
you'd agree with that, Felix? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my line of sight is more on kind of opportunities to grow very quickly into 100 million revenue businesses, and I think
we're complementing our views, right?
Yeah,
you're more the status.
Yeah, I'm kind of one level lower, but of course, I mean, we only invest if we think that there's a perspective, to get to 100+ million revenue yearly. So I think Lisa already kind of touched on it. I think one of the big opportunities, so we've talked a lot about consumer, and that's one of the things we love at Speed Invest. I'll talk about some of the other stuff as well now. I think data is really a key word, and not just like the famous word around, you have so much data, you can do so much with it, but actually just enabling the flow of data and enabling the management and handling of data. And I think that this is an incredibly broad field, obviously, but in health, totally unsolved. So just some examples. We've recently invested in a company that does mass anonymization of telemedicine videos at scale. This is, for example, a huge problem. Companies are collecting millions of hours of call data. That's a totally GDPR non-compliant. At the same time, you want to have that data because you can learn a lot from it. So how do you manage that? So that's just one example. Data creates data problems, and so solving these data problems is a huge opportunity on a back-end level. Another example, just looking at the totally different field, just looking at the explosion of biology and genetics related applications. So there's a whole mega trend around personalized medicine and modifying genes, basically, and that requires an entirely new data stack, an entirely new tech stack of tools and tools to basically understand and manage this data, because we're talking about data sets that are bigger than anything we've really ever operated with at scale. And again, this is stuff that happens in highly specialized environments and labs and computer science labs and everything. But all of this technology still has to be written. It's all still out there to be discovered and to be built. And the dominant omics analysis platform hasn't been built yet. It's being built right now. We think it's one of our portfolio companies, Sakara Labs, but it's there's a couple doing this out there, and these are going to be multi-billion dollar markets going forward, and the list goes on. So I think far away from areas that consumers look at. Just if we look at, what happens with data that is collected, how do we move data within healthcare providers, for example, moving data from A to B, different providers, that's completely unsolved. It's even unsolved in the United States, where many things are at least on a digital front, more advanced. Huge opportunities there. And so that's also something where we see a lot of opportunities to also grow very quickly, because many of these are white spaces, and people are desperately looking for solutions.
I mean, as I listen to you there, it's difficult for any of you probably to answer this, or anybody on the planet to answer this straight away right now. But if I was to ask you,
we're investors and consultants, we can answer every question.
If I was to ask you, what is the solution? What would be the way forward to navigate these issues with handling data in the correct way, making sure the data is used correctly? I mean, just a kind of, I'd love to hear your ideas on how not a concrete idea or a concrete solution, but towards the right solution. What would you say?
Super broad question, but
it just reminded me of it is difficult, and we're trying to navigate everything as much as we can, and even in the US they haven't managed to do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think,
in your opinion, what would you say?
I can chip in just 3 quick thoughts. I think the simplest way to think about this is that if you just look at Google Sheets nowadays, so we all grew up using Excel. Now everyone is growing up using Google Sheets, which means it's basically Excel, except that your grandmother can suddenly edit your formula, and your friends can do this, and you can edit who can see what when, and you can share it and integrate other apps. This way of working will become standard for very complex, very, very sensitive data sets as well. I think so. Collaboration is one thing. Security and privacy are two other big things. And then the fourth big one is analytics. I think the commoditizing analytics in collaborative data settings is definitely something that's happening right now, but there's still a lot more to do. So just imagine an insurance company or a healthcare provider. I think hospitals are great examples because they typically don't have any of this set up. But can you just imagine a hospital working with their entire data in an Airtable or Google Sheets format? I mean, that's totally revolutionary. That will happen. The question is, how do we get there? It will happen because the benefits are huge of collaborating around data like this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's it, isn't it? It will happen, but the question is, how do we get there? As Felix was talking there again, Dr. Ulrich, I just looking on your face, although you weren't nodding, I could see your kind of brain working. What's your take?
That's very polite to say.
No, it's a compliment.
No, I mean,
through your eyes, I could see your kind of, I'm thinking hard about this.
No, I think just say, let's from a consultant perspective, at least what I can observe is that the whole issue of data analytics is growing up in a way that it just becomes way more industry specific. Yeah, and if you look, for instance, at insurance, all the big insurance companies have 30, 40, 50 people just working on data analytics. So it has grown in the industry, and it really has become about less just trying out something generic, but really be use case driven and find something where you can solve actual problems. And the problems are manifold. Yeah, for instance, if you stay in insurance, assessing new kinds of risks. This can be for insurers, and also reinsurers can be a very big problem. And here, new analytics methods can help you. And I like the notion of Felix, where he said new collaboration models, because this is also something that we got from parts of our new study. That of course there will be also in healthcare new collaboration models, for instance, among doctors. Yeah, that you have a certain specialist. For instance, who supports in a surgery, but he sits in New York, and the surgery takes place in San Francisco. Yeah, and this, of course, also means access to better care, because he might be one of the top 5 specialists who cannot just fly around the country the whole time, but he can just concentrate on the surgeries that are really needed. And I mean, why only from New York. You also could as well be from South Africa. Yeah, and this combined also with robotics, I mean, this can really significantly improve care. Yeah, and I mean, maybe one last example, because it's not just surgery. If you look at something very a practical problem that we also have in Germany, is that the support of doctors and the accessibility of doctors at the countryside is maybe not ideal. Why don't you come up with a model that is based on telemedicine, where you have specialized doctors also going to the different regions, not just driving there, but having people supporting him in the field that do not have this special education. Yeah, so being around data and giving access to better care, I think that's a very interesting field.
Okay, Lisa, anything we'd like to add on to that?
Yeah, one more general observation, adding to Felix what he said before. So compared to the US, I think in the EU we have much more strict data protection laws. So which for our startups in the beginning obviously seems to be a burden and can be a pain, but I think it sets the bar so high in terms of data protection that actually this will be an advantage then in the long term.
Great. So just sort of moving on to a slightly different topic. Again, often, you know, in terms of thinking about this topic today, the fight against AI and the fight against COVID-19, the two are clearly, you know, connected together, and it got me thinking about pandemic detection, vaccine development, even, you know, facial recognition with masks, even cleaning technologies within hospitals. I'm sure that's changing and developing very fast as well. Just wanted to hear your take on how AI is really helping us to try to solve this fight against COVID. And I'll open it up to Dr. Ulrich. We'll start with Doctor this time.
Well, that's a tough question, because probably I have been a little bit disappointed on how we progressed in the fight of COVID, and what has been done in the digital space I would not directly associate with AI. So it has been very, very basic what we have done. And connecting to the last topic that we had, I think sometimes we were really missing the pragmatism of trying to solve the problem, and just inhibiting ourselves with extremely strong privacy hurdles. So I think we could have been a little bit more creative to solve that problem there. As for AI, I would assume, and I'm not a specialist in this, but I would assume that especially for prediction models and also how the pandemic is spreading, as well as in drug development, this is increasingly playing a role. I mean, we see that with other drugs also, that AI is playing an increasingly bigger role, starting from the initial development to actually testing it and making projections. So I would expect that the role of AI is actually increasing there. Yeah.
Lisa?
Yeah, I can just only agree here with Ulrich. I think not specifically to Corona, but in general, we see AI more as a supportive tool for surgeons and for healthcare professionals, but not really replacing this. So I think there is more to come, and we wait for the new developments there.
We certainly are waiting, for some of us, a long time already. It feels like a long time, perhaps, for so many people. Felix, what's your take?
Yeah, I think we have this joke internally. So we look at thousands of pitch decks every year, and you know, for a while, a few years back, it was always AI this or AI that. At this point, nobody ever even mentions AI. It's just, if you have a software application, there will be machine learning, which is basically just a complicated way of saying pattern detection and recognition and leveraging efficiency gains from these patterns that we detect. It's part of everything. It's the complete mainstreaming of AI. And when we talk about AI, people think of very scary things, but it can be also very simple things like just we have Unica Ventures and Speedinvest, we have a joint investment in a company in Germany that builds practice management software, Doctorly. AI can be as simple as just, auto recommending, which is something we already know from Amazon and Netflix, which is auto recommending to the assistant in the office. Okay, given this patient's basic health data or insurance data, you probably want to pull up this, and this recommendation already for the physician to review. So I think very much agree with Lisa. It's not either or. It's going to be a mainstream part of every software application. Every application of tech will in some form or shape be enabled by AI. There will be rules governing, the outer fringes of what we call AI. So the things that get really sensitive, what happens with facial recognition data, I've already touched on that, etc. So this will be a rule-based but completely mainstream part of technology. It's ultimately just a fancy word for saying calculations are happening in the background. And everyone stands to gain from it. And I think it's really just like every other technology. A lot of the discussions we have around AI, we've already had these discussions 20, 30 years ago, just around databases. Oh my God, what would happen if there was a database with all this information? And now you have the same discussions with AI. Oh my God, what if AI does something with this or that information? What happened? The discussion became very technical. As Ulrich actually said, it becomes very verticalized. So different applications across different fields, insurance, health, etc., completely different use cases. But yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of AI-driven stuff going forward, but we won't know that it's AI in the background.
Okay, so
it's very interesting. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's very interesting what Felix said, that they don't call it AI anymore. I think my personal observation would be that, of course, there's also some sort of innovation fatigue or innovation and startup fatigue. And I've been heading a department for innovation scouting in the insurance industry, and we really went through a life cycle of everyone wanted to work with startups, and it was so exciting. And then after 2 years, you see, well, maybe it's not that easy, and you don't get results right away, to a point where people from the industry will tell you, no, yeah, I've seen it all. There's no new innovation happening, and I've seen 200 depression apps already. There's nothing new happening, which is of course not right. But it's just also the perception in the market is going through a sort of life cycle, and it's a bit like this Gartner hype cycle. I think we're really a little bit at the bottom now. But I agree. It will stabilize, and that might also be one of the reasons why the marketing and saying I'm the Uber of this and that, and I use AI for this and that is being used a little bit more conservatively now.
We spoke about it a little bit earlier on. Literally, the US market and the EU market. So health tech in the US, health tech in Europe. What do you see are the kind of main differences between the two? If you hear that now, what are the first kind of things that spring to mind? What would you say, Lisa?
Well, I think the US market is way more advanced in terms of employer solutions. So we have many solutions that are basically distributed or delivered through employers, which is the case because this sometimes is mandatory. For example, in the US, big corporates have to offer, for example, to their clients that smoking, solutions to stop smoking. So they are required by law, and so there we have a lot more offering coming there, and also with a bigger reach. I don't think that this is so advanced in Europe, so at least we don't have seen any really big players in this space. But I think this is up and coming now in Europe, also because employers try to attract talent, and they see that they can attract talent also through these healthcare benefits that they offer, not only in the mental health space, but also, for example, in the fertility space. So I think this is one of the biggest differences between the US and Europe. and also kind of explains why the market in the US is more advanced respectively to Europe.
So what are we doing here in Europe better than what they're doing there over in the US? What would you say?
Well, I think we are handling data better, we are protecting data more, and we are giving the power to the consumer to actually understand and decide what happens to that data. I think the US has a much more open approach to data usage and data sharing. I think this is an advantage that we have. On the other hand, maybe it slows down the progress, and the US is therefore slightly more advanced than we are.
Okay, Felix, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, having lived in the US and suffered the US healthcare system, I have a pretty strong opinion on this. So I think there's an interesting discrepancy. I think in terms of digital health, the US is 10 years ahead of Europe. And in terms of the rest of the healthcare system, I think it's actually the other way around. So I think the big challenge in the US is that they have massive coverage gaps and massive equality issues in access to healthcare in a scale that we just can't even imagine in Europe, in most countries. And this is a huge problem. And if you just look at the highest level indicators like quality of life, healthy life years, life expectancy for certain risk profiles, the US, given how much they spend, given how rich that economy is way below expectations. On the other hand, it's created an incredible amount of, or it's created a lot of white spaces for specifically digital health players to go into. My favorite example is Livongo. The reason in the US we have a $20 billion, remote diabetes management company is because that is just taken care of by mostly public healthcare systems in Europe in a pretty competent way, and has been, taken care of for well over 10, 20 years. It's not perfect, and huge gaps in Europe as well, but just that white space that Livongo grew into, that just didn't exist in Europe. And so I think there's always light and shadow. If you then add to the US just the incredible amount of capital that's available, I mean, this is also changing, but we're still talking about orders of magnitude of difference for tech. If you talk about exit opportunities for digital health companies, I mean, if you just look at the amounts of digital health exits in Europe versus the US, Europe had under 50 digital health exits ever. The US had 150 just in the second half of 2020. That's a completely different market. If you're building a business, or if you're going into that market to build a business, completely different expectations. How big can you get? How profitable can something be? Completely different markets, but light and shadow. I think not everything that we do in Europe is worse. Lisa mentioned one point, but I think also by and large, on average, healthcare is still better, a lot better here than it is in the US. Although, of course, if you're in the top 10% in the US, you have wonderful healthcare coverage, but it also comes with a price tag. So,
Dr. Ulrich, love to hear your take. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot has already been said by Lisa and Felix, and of course we have different starting points. The European healthcare system, especially also the German healthcare system, is more built on solidarity and plurality and giving, I think Felix said it, access to health, and making sure that patients receive immediate treatment, also when they cannot pay up front. So that's a huge advantage for patients, and it's much more egalitarian. On the other hand, of course, there are also some structural disadvantages that we have when we talk innovation. And I think the point of data security, data protection is, as Lisa said, an advantage for patients. On the other hand, it's also stifling developments. And when I see it, I mean, for the electronic patient records, we worked for more than 6 months just on the registration process, and not because we are slow, simply because it's just very confusing and cumbersome and burdensome to install a system that is compliant with what is asked by the Gematik, the German body that regulates this. So data protection can, of course, also slow down a little bit the process. And I think startups, of course, there's always the factor of having a bigger domestic market in the US, which makes it easier to scale. In Germany, in Europe, we have a number of different healthcare systems. They're not all the same. Also, how remuneration works and what is done by the employer and what is paid privately. So there's a lot of diversity there, and that, of course, can also slow down. So in terms of healthcare system, do I want to live in the US now? No, probably not. But sometimes I would wish that, we would explore ways to drive innovations a bit quicker. And a very good example for me was always how it was done in the UK to work with MGAs and work with sandbox models to make it possible for young insurance companies also to get a temporary license, how they can go to the market and actually acquire real customers, of course, within certain boundaries, but making that possible and not always looking for the super perfect solution that is super mega secure, that could probably drive the development. And I mean, as I said before in my presentation, I think not just from a corporate view, but also in the interest of the patient, it is also about speed. It is also about speed and giving access to care and giving access to prevention and leverage the technologies that we have at hand now.
Listen, very quickly, we're coming towards the end of our time together. An hour goes very quickly. Time flies when you're having fun. I wouldn't say this is fun, but it's intriguing, definitely, and interesting as well. It is. From maybe not from where you're sitting, but from where I'm sitting, and I'm sure the people that are tuning in as well. And remember, this is recorded, so many other people will be watching this also. But okay, think about this. We jump into the future, let's say 10 years from now, into a time where hopefully what's happened over the last year or so is something we've learned from, something we've developed and moved on from, or trying to deal with it, handle it in the right way. What does our world look like? What would it look like in terms of the health tech innovations that have helped us and helped our world to a better place? It's quite a broad question, but just very quickly, things that come to mind. 10 years time, what does our world look like? Felix.
I expect a much more from a consumer point of view, a much more seamless mobile-based healthcare journey. I'll be doing 80% of my healthcare business on my mobile phone, not even my laptop. And I'll only be going into healthcare institutions for very specialized things that really can only be done face-to-face on a consumer side. And I'll be probably using one or two apps that are really tied into multiple aspects of my life and coach me through things that are not just health related, but also health related. And I'll trust those apps with way too much data.
Okay. Lisa, your take?
I would live in Felix's world, and I would use my ability to monetize my own data. So I would like to be able to decide when to sell my data and whom to sell it to.
Okay, and the last word to Dr. Ulrich. Tell us what world are we living in?
Yeah, I hope and I believe that digital will play a big role in prevention, in early detection, in therapy selection, and also in therapy supervision and coaching. Therapy probably will also be changed by new modalities like cell and gene therapy. I mean, we mentioned this before. There will be changes also in pharma, so moving from blockbuster pharma therapy to more personalized treatments. I think on the market side, we have to admit that certain innovations will increasingly also be funded privately and paid out of pocket by consumers. And Yeah, I think there also will be new highly specialized provider that will claim increase in market share in certain segments. And something that remains open is, of course, what do the GAFAM, the big tech firms, do? Will they focus on sensor technology and hardware as a foundation for an ecosystem, or will they focus on applications and therapies themselves? So I think there's a lot of interesting developments to go for and to cover.
And with that, we are about to wrap up our session today. All that leaves me to say really is, Dr. Ulrich, Lisa, and Felix, thank you so much. Number one, for your time. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and sharing your knowledge. And there was, I think you'll agree with me, people who are listening into this either live right now or recorded, whenever or wherever you're listening to this. Lots of intriguing ideas and food for thought to get us thinking more and taking this topic to the future in the right direction as well. So if you like what you've heard, you like some of the insights or all the insights, I'm sure every single one of our panelists would like to link up with you, connect, and maybe start a conversation of your own. With that, I say thank you so much. We will now have a short break.
Thanks.
And I believe at 3:30 back here, Studio 2, moving on to our next block, which is simply all about fintech.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.